Welcome to Beyond the Brand, the podcast that takes you inside the world of franchising, brought to you by Business Alliance Incorporated. We're here to share real stories, expert insights, and strategies to help you navigate the franchise industry with confidence. Let's dive in.
All right. Hello and welcome in. Thank you for joining this episode of BAI's Beyond the Brand, where we take a look at the stories of our franchise partners, franchisees. And today I'm joined by Todd Eppert, who is a Focal Point franchisee since 2018 in Cincinnati, Ohio. And Todd has a little more unique story as he is a franchisee, but he's also an area representative for Focal Point. So we'll get a better understanding of those two roles and how that has evolved over time. First off, Todd, I just want to start off by thanking you for your time today. I'm sure you're very busy, so I appreciate you setting aside a few minutes to sit with me.
Yeah, Heath, I'm happy to join you. Thank you for the invite. Looking forward to having just a real candid conversation about business together.
Absolutely. As am I. So I like to start off these conversations just setting the stage a little bit with your background. Just curious, before becoming a Focal Point franchisee, what was your previous career? What industry were you in?
Great question. It's interesting that I'm probably like a lot of other folks that come to the franchise model. I was a corporate guy.
Yeah.
I'm an engineer by degree, got an MBA, got into operations management and manufacturing. And I always pinnacled my career at, boy, if I could get to be a chief operating officer, that's like the top. And I could do that the rest of my life. I got there around 40. I'm now 52. So about 12 years ago, I got there, loved my job for a couple of years, and we were private equity owned.
Okay.
And we went through a number of acquisitions that I was not 100% in favor of, and later ended up closing plants and terminating a bunch of people. And I was like, oh, I can't do this the rest of my life. I need something different. I'm on the wrong mountain. Where do I go? And it is really hard to restart when you're 45 as a career. So you got to think differently. And that's when I met and encountered the idea of being a franchisee with a business.
And were you initially thinking franchising was the route you wanted to go for looking into business for yourself?
So I looked at probably all avenues. So I looked at a career change, but I really quickly scratched that because I'm like, how do I make the kind of money that I'm making today as a COO quickly if I totally pivot? The second thing I looked at was, what if I go back as a COO and just change the place I work? Problem for me there is there's not a lot of chief operating officers on places like Indeed or even LinkedIn.
Yeah.
And the ones I looked at were all over the country. And I live in Cincinnati. My kids were school age and I just didn't want to rip them out. So I'm like, okay, business ownership. What does that look like? And I actually almost went down the path of buying a number of small businesses with a partner. I decided not to move forward with that. And because I thought the risk level to going into franchising was much lower for a lot of reasons, but mainly because you're building a brand, or you're buying a brand with a process and support and everybody around you to help you do it. And if you buy a small business, while they can be very successful, you get some of the potential challenges that the small business owner leaves behind when you buy their business.
Yeah. And so what was it that led you to Focal Point specifically?
Yeah, great question. So as I was looking at, I think I looked at 7 or 8 different franchise models. I think there's great models out there. Anybody that's looking at franchising, there's one built for you. What are you looking to do? So whether it's what, you got to pick the one that matches you. And when I was going through them all, what I really came down to was, if I'm doing the job for a while, what do I really want to do? I had scratched very quickly that I didn't want an employee-based franchise, and I didn't want retail, I didn't want food, I didn't want to hire high school kids. I love high school kids. I have the 2 that are now in college, but I didn't want to manage high school kids, and nothing wrong with them, but that was just one of the requirements I had for myself.
Yep.
And I wanted to do B2B because I had a really good business background. And so when I threw all those, again, great things about like places like BAI, if you give the constraints, you guys are great at finding the models that potentially could fit for me. I think I looked at 7 or 8 different models. And when it came down to it, I was always a developer of people in the corporate world. So whether they were a salesperson, an engineer, a purchasing person, or a manufacturing supervisor, I constantly had people coming in my office and just asking questions. And I enjoy people. I love being around people. And I'm like, I could do that. I see Focal Point. They help other people. What we do, what our DNA is, you got to want to help others. The second piece I always talk about is, you are not the hero of the story. Your client is the hero. And so you got to be willing to be the Yoda, not the Luke Skywalker.
Yeah, exactly.
And then when I looked at what do I get to do, I get to help others grow their businesses or grow their careers and achieve more. That's really exciting. And so that's why I
Mhm.
joined Focal Point.
Excellent. And so you crossed that threshold, you became a franchisee 2018. What skills from your operations background, your COO status, what skills from that position do you think translated over best for you as a new franchisee with Focal Point that helped you in that role?
Yeah, so first and foremost, the fact that I spent 15 years developing other people really helped me because I'd learned the coaching model as an early professional because I had been coached and I was coached on how to coach. There's a big difference between being a boss who, when you come in and say, I have a problem, and then the boss tells you what to do,
Yeah.
that's a problem solver. I was taught very early on in the career, if you do that, you become the bottleneck. And so
Mhm.
everybody comes to you for the answers. And if they can't get the answer from you, then they can't move forward. So, how do you open people up to learning from their own experiences and asking more open-ended questions, the who, what, when, what, who, what, when, where, why questions of the world, not the did, are, will, can you questions, which are
Yeah.
yes, no, closed questions. So learn that very early. And so that skill definitely translated.
Mhm.
Although I don't mind telling you, as an engineer, I still struggle with solving the problem at times because it's what I spent 25 years solving problems.
Yeah.
And so that's one I do balance, but that did translate over. The other thing that probably worked to my favor, just having good financial knowledge, being in the boardrooms, being at the C table, being responsible for budgets and understanding how to manage a P&L, although it wasn't required, it definitely helps me with my clients to help them to see that.
Yeah.
Those are probably the two easiest things I brought over.
Okay.
But beyond that, I didn't have much, which is why franchising made the most sense to me. I had no idea how to market, sell,
Yeah. Well,
no idea how to do any of that stuff.
yeah, that leads perfectly into my next question on the flip side of that coin. What
Ah,
was your biggest learning curve? What did you find yourself really leaning on corporate and maybe other franchisees for the most help with?
yeah, so I was literally petrified about, and when I looked at owning small businesses, the worst thing I could think about was, okay, if I buy somebody's machine shop, because again, manufacturer based, that's kind of what I was looking at. I'm going to have to go into companies like GE, General Electric, or some aerospace company and sell them on the what we can do. And I don't have a minute in my career of carrying a bag and learning how to sell. And so,
Yeah.
how am I going to do that? When I learned about franchising, that was one of the biggest reasons why I said, I think if I'm going to start a business, it has to be a franchise
Yeah.
because they
As of
teach you and
systems.
train you how to do these things,
Mm.
right? They walk alongside you. And so my biggest gap was the selling and marketing. And I'm very happy to report that Focal Point has a very robust training modules, very robust training process.
Yeah.
And candidly, I'm 7.5 years in, and I'm still learning at Focal Point. I still
Right.
get development from people there. Still
Mhm.
learn new ways of doing things, especially in the selling and marketing areas.
Yeah. I think that's good for our consultants and their candidates to hear too, that the sales and marketing was actually the weakness, but the support really helped because a lot of corporate refugees coming from high level management positions and C suite executives, they probably maybe have never done or haven't at least done hard selling in a long time. Hearing that there's enough support on the franchisor side that helped you through, that's really encouraging to hear.
Yeah. Yeah. And I will tell you, if you do enough research, you'd find it anyway. So it's not a big secret. One of my proudest moments at Focal Point was in my second year.
Uh-huh.
I won the Brian Tracy Award for Sales Excellence, which
Oh,
is
wow.
given every year at conference to the best performing salesperson at the organization. I was in year two and I won the award. And the other thing that was a very cool thing and why I really look back at the support I had in Focal Point and why I look at my success today and say it was a lot because of what I got early.
Yeah.
In my first year, one of my clients was my old company that I was actually let go from my old company. I had told my boss I wanted something different. It took 6 months and they gave me my papers and I got something different. Right? But at the end of the day, I had the conversation when they said your employment's no longer necessary here. But within 6 months of me leaving my former organization, one of the guys I hired there reached out to me and said, hey, I'm having some communication problems with my leadership team. He was a new president in the division. He had worked for me as a manufacturing, like a general manager in one of the plants.
Yeah.
And he said, can you help me? And I said, absolutely, I'll help you out. So I went to Salt Lake. I met with 6 executives. We did a communication training. 2 of them knew who I was. I had no problem telling them that I was the former COO. That one of the executives in the room was the head of the sales organization. And 6 months after that meeting, so within a year of my first year of being at Focal Point, my old organization hired me to train 30 of their sales team members in
That's
selling
a
skills.
full circle moment for
And
you.
I was like, and it was, yes. And I used Focal Point content and I was taught how to do that. And then I was literally teaching them the concepts of how to look at someone else's behavior and understand them and then leverage those behaviors to be a better salesperson.
Yeah.
And so, again, that's another huge proud moment that these people all knew that I was a former COO, and yet I'm teaching a bunch of salespeople.
Yeah. That's got to be a fulfilling feeling to know
Yeah,
that,
it was.
hey, I made the right move because they still need my help.
Yeah, it was good. It was good.
Excellent. Looking back at these 7+ years with Focal Point, is there a moment you can pinpoint that was that catalyst for you where you looked at it and said, this was a good choice. This is a viable business that I feel like I can replace that income and get what I wanted to out of this from this change in your life?
Yeah, that's a great question, Heath. And so, yes, there was a point. And let me just describe a little bit of why it takes some time.
Yeah.
So I think the nice thing about Focal Point is we hit the ground running really quick. You go through your training, onboarding, and within that's probably 3 to 4 months at most, you're out in the field, you're out selling and building your business right away. Because there is no brick and mortar. There isn't the training period is lengthy, but it's not 6 months of training before you can get on business on your own. So you get out there right away, but you also don't, because it's not a brick and mortar, you don't have a line of customers waiting when your doors open. Like a lot of stores, there's signs for 6 months that I'll use Chick-fil-A, even though they're not truly a franchise, but every time they open a Chick-fil-A, by the time they open, there's a line of cars around the corner waiting to get that chicken sandwich. And because we're not brick and mortar, you got to get out and do it. And so your client base grows at a slower pace. So it took me about a year to build my client base. And then, of course, one falls off, one comes on. And so it's a little, you're okay, I know I'm doing well, but man, I'm still, if I could just get over that hump, if I could get over that hump. For me, unfortunately, my second full year in business was the pandemic.
Yeah.
Pandemic was, I had a client literally call me one day and say, I'm either keeping my staff or I'm keeping you. And my statement was, you keep your staff. I'll be here when you need me back.
That's great.
Literally the day they opened their doors, I was back in there training with them. I think that was probably the moment. So coming out of the pandemic, as quickly as my business came back and it was stronger than it was prior to the pandemic, that was the moment I realized I can do this. And so that would have been probably what it would have been mid-20. It probably would have happened earlier if it hadn't have been for the pandemic. So maybe 2 years it took me to get to that point. And today it's better than I've ever had it. It's easier now. I have more clients. It's not, if I lose one, it's not a big deal. So I've been successful for a number of years. I've been blessed by that. So.
That's great. Yeah. And good on you for giving that one client just what you felt was right to do. Hey, keep your staff. I'll be here when you need me. I think that says a lot about your integrity and the relationship you have with those clients. And so just to paint the picture for our brokers, can you walk me through what you're typically doing for your clients as far as the coaching side goes? What things do you typically focus on with them?
Yeah, so we're not the interesting thing about Focal Point, we're not if you join us, you have to do everything exactly how we tell you. We have some rules and constraints, but if you want to do executive coaching, you can focus just on executive coaching. And so in that space, what you would be doing is you're probably working somewhere between 6 and maybe 15 months with an executive that's trying to move from director to VP or VP to C-suite. And generally what we're working on there are leadership skills, sometimes some management skills. So things like, remember the conversation I just had, teaching people to stop being the problem solver, be the coach in the workplace. You got most individual contributors, when they become leaders for the first time, they need to learn that skill. They need to learn things like time management, priorities, delegation. So we're doing all of those things, but we're also teaching them maybe executive presence, how to communicate at a different level, how to communicate across different levels in the organization. So that's kind of the executive side.
Okay.
On the small business side, which is where I focus, and specifically, I actually go to market as an exit planning coach, meaning I'm helping the business owner prepare for the inevitable transition, whether that's to your kids, to your employees, to a partner, or to an outside entity that buys you. And I actually believe that when we're working with small business owners, we're doing that all the time. They just don't have a time frame set. So in that space, oftentimes we'll run through what we call our stack of content. The bottom, the foundation is clarity, understanding what business are you in, what should you be in, what could you be in, what should you not be in, who is your real customer, that ideal target client, who are the customers that you're serving today that I'm not going to tell you to fire them, but you definitely don't want to replace them with someone that looks just like them. So we're building that clarity around that. And those are some places where we really get the focus for the business owner. Then we move into what is an effectiveness level. That's where they're also getting time management, delegation skills, learning to help them understand it's not all about me. The owner dependency in small business, especially, is rampant. And if they don't fix that problem, the business just can't transition and it really can't grow beyond that bottleneck. So
Yeah.
that's really what we're doing there. And then we go into things like growth and then do some sales training if they need it. And then we eventually get to strategic planning leadership level. But we start at the foundation and work our way up. And typically we work with our clients either every other week or weekly. We're a
Okay.
high touch client facing. Our meetings are about an hour at a time. They have homework in between. We have homework in between. So it's the nice, I will tell you, the most wonderful thing I have at Focal Point is I never walk into a client meeting and say, so what do you want to talk about today?
Yeah.
We have an agenda, we have a plan, we have a process we're walking through, and it's incremental improvement through implementing business best practices in bite-sized chunks. I just made that up.
That sounded rehearsed. So
I don't know that I've always put it all together. I've certainly told people it's incremental improvement. I've certainly talked about bite-sized chunks of best business practices, but
yeah,
that's what happens.
it rolls off the tongue. So that's a good philosophy. And so your agenda with clients, is it pretty uniform, or is there a lot of changes you're making to those action items with your clients as they progress through that series? And is that more provided by the franchisor and then they give you the runway to make that your own and cater it to your client?
Yeah, great question. So our coaching process is standardized. That's one of the secret sauces of Focal Point.
Okay.
But we meet our clients where they are, and every client is unique and individual because they're humans, right? We're all individuals as humans. And so we meet our clients where they are. And so some clients, they go through the process faster than others.
Yeah.
Some clients really want to, I've had clients that sit in one module for 4 or 5 weeks because they just really want to dig into that. I've had others that are like, yeah, let's move past that one. It's not much. And so we meet them where they are. But the coaching process is the same. Again, they have homework, we have homework, they read content, and then we go through a process of really helping them understand the concepts, making sure they get them, and then what actions are you going to take? Coaching is all about pushing to action,
Yep.
and then the accountability behind the actions that you've committed to do. And so we keep running action lists, we track them regularly, and that's really how that incremental improvement happens. And what we focus on the action items is not what am I going to do in 6 months? What am I going to do before our next meeting? What am I going to take action on this week?
Short term.
Even if it's something small.
Yeah. And so what is your kind of vision for the company? Like, where have you gotten to from where you started? How do you plan on expanding? I'm just curious, do you just try to have a full book of customers at all times that keep you busy, or is there constant rotation going where you've completed your task with this customer, now it's time to find new ones? How much of that do you have to do on a monthly basis?
Yeah, so can I approach that from 2 different perspectives?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so let me approach it from the AR perspective, the area developer, area rep side. So I'll speak for Focal Point corporate at this point, but
Okay.
that world has changed significantly in my 7.5 years with the business. We now have a very robust marketing team that helps our coaches. When I came on board, it was you're on your own. Here's how you do it. Now go do it, kind of thing.
Yeah.
We have a standardized CRM platform that all of our coaches use now. We have a coach our client acquisition toolbox that's standardized across our organization. It's AI driven. Those things didn't exist when I started. So Focal Point in general is maturing as a franchise, but also improving their support standardization. They're growing up as an organization, and it's refreshing and fun, and it's great to be part of that and see all the changes that are happening.
Yeah.
On an individual level as a business owner. So obviously your early goals are how do I make money? Then it's how do I stabilize that cash flow? Then how do I continue to grow my practice? So I have done a couple of different things. I used to think I was busy when I would have 14 or 15 clients. So when I got to that point, I actually brought my first associate on. At Focal Point, we're allowed to have 3 associates under our license, which is a way to expand your business but not have to do all the work, obviously, because they go through the same certification process, but they sit underneath your franchise agreement. And so they're part of your team. but I consider them partners because they're equal to me in their capabilities. So I brought my first associate on, and suddenly I was busy at 22 clients, except I was still doing 22 clients. He's doing 6 more. So it freed up time. Some of the improvements that the organization has made have helped me freed up time, like the CRM package. I don't want to tell you the brand because I don't want to put a thumbprint on anybody's brand, but our CRM package is great. It helps me be more effective, which helps me manage my 22 clients today, like it used to take me managing 14 last time, a couple years ago. I now have 2 associates in my practice, so I will continue to grow that. My long-term vision would be to probably build my agency with associates, and then and I'm still pretty young. I'm in my early 50s now, and I could do coaching. The other nice thing is I can do coaching until I'm in my 70s. We have people doing it today.
Yeah.
It's not physical. I'm not driving around anywhere. I do a lot of my meetings on Zoom now. Thank you to the pandemic. That's the one positive change that came from it.
Yep.
All of those things. But I could see the vision would be to build the practice up to the point where you could actually sell your client list to your associates and they can continue to move forward. Maybe one of them steps up and takes the main license fee. And so that's a question we get oftentimes because we're not brick and mortar. What's the end game for you?
Yeah.
It's different for everybody. Some of our coaches just do it to build a lifestyle business. And when they're done, they just fade off because they're good. I would like to build a sellable entity. That's my goal. Because I'm in exit planning, I'd like to build one that I can sell.
Yeah. I feel like that's right in your wheelhouse.
Yeah. Yeah.
Good. Perfect. I know this question is probably a little more valuable coming from you with the area developer role that you have as well. You really know who Focal Point is looking for, as in their new franchisees. So if you put yourself in the shoes of one of our franchise consultants and you're working with a candidate and you think Focal Point's a good fit, knowing everything you know now about the brand, how would you present this opportunity to a potential new franchisee? What do you think are the key highlights that should always be mentioned from your point of view?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I think a couple things there. I would say first and foremost, this is a continuous learning organization. So if you're going to join, you're going to always be pivoting, growing. It's a constant learning. We read, we coach, we learn, we learn from our clients. So if you want something where you're going to be constantly challenged in your mind, Focal Point could be a great fit for you.
Yeah.
We're a team, even though we're individual business owners. If you join Focal Point and you want to be a lone wolf, you will probably not fit. So make sure that if you want other people there helping you along the journey, Focal Point could be a great fit. Those are the expectations. Is that what you're asking me? Those kinds of things?
Yeah. Just what would be attractive to someone. And I like how you phrased it, really taking on that challenge. This isn't a business you just plug in and sit back and collect money. This is something I can tell from your path, you had to work really hard. You made it through a pandemic. And I can even tell, every client you're bringing on, it sounds like there's probably a new challenge that you have to walk them through. So it seems like a role where there's something different every day. And there's a lot of people that like that challenge.
Yeah, a lot of variety. You mentioned just right there, you mentioned a couple things that you're right on. This is definitely an active business model. The other thing that I would definitely present is this is a fast to market business and it's a very high margin business.
Yeah.
Because we don't have brick and mortar and we don't have employees. And so for those reasons, you can get to work very quickly and your margins are very high.
Yeah.
And so those are things you also said. Yeah, it does take work. I work less than I worked in my corporate career, and I always have. When I started my business, one of my goals was to be there more for my family. And so I kind of tapped out. I said at 45 hours, I'm done. So I maintain a 35 to 45 hour week.
Oh, that's great.
And I don't work, if I have to work a weekend, it's because I just am catching up on emails and things. I don't have to go into the shop. I don't have clients calling me on the weekends unless there's some kind of an emergency or something going on. And I will tell you, that's the other thing that may be something. Some of my client relations are 7 years old.
I was going to ask.
They're not only my clients, but they're my friends, right?
Yeah.
They've been to my house for holiday parties. I've gone to dinner and met their wives or spouses or significant others or whatever. And so we build relationships with our clients that last a long time. So that could also be something that is attractive to folks that might consider Focal Point.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's a lot different than, like we talked about earlier, setting up a brick and mortar, hoping customers walk in. This is long-term play with customers, it sounds like.
Yeah. And Heath, now that I'm thinking about that, this is one other point, if I can add it, is we don't need to serve hundreds of clients every month to make money. We need to serve 8 to 15 people a month, maybe 20. But you have to talk to the hundreds to get them in the hopper. Once they're in the hopper, they stay in the hopper for a long time.
Yeah.
You don't have to recreate 15 to 20 new people every single month. And you certainly don't need to have thousands of transactions every month to be successful in our business.
Yeah. And I should have asked this earlier, but I'm just curious, how do you find new clients? What's been your most impactful marketing strategy?
Yeah, so I mentioned a little bit the changes at the corporate level. Candidly, we can choose to use those or not once we're out of our first couple of years.
Okay.
I'm not using the AI driven thing right now because I don't need to, although I'm considering it just because I want to see what it's like to test it a little bit. As an area rep, I want to see, does this work and how does it work, and can I explain it to somebody that comes on board as a new coach. So sometimes I'll take on the initiatives just to learn them so I can help the new people coming in.
Yeah.
Because we do mentor, you have a lifelong mentor at Focal Point as well, and I mentor a lot of coaches. So that's why I would do AI. But the way I find my clients and have built my practice, first and foremost, it's mostly when we start, it's already people that know and trust us. I've never cold called. It's from my perspective for our business, one of the worst ways you could go to market because coaching is hard to explain. And
Yeah.
cold calling someone about coaching, they're like, yeah, whatever. So you need to have a little bit of trust with the person you're talking to before they'll even have a conversation about coaching. And so we start with the people that know and trust you. My first clients came from my sister-in-law and my ex-employer, but the person that I was a person that worked for me, that was a friend and a colleague of mine. Then it was other people that knew me from my other career path, people,
Okay.
things like that.
Yeah.
Some neighbors, people. But then I was like, okay, there's only so many people like that. Local, I am a shake your hand, meet you face to face, love to build my business like that.
I can tell.
So BNI has been a very successful mode of generating business. I'm sure if you've never heard of that, Business
Yep.
Networking International.
Yeah.
Local chambers of commerce. I got involved in my local chamber, got on the board. Suddenly I'm in networking meetings. Instead of being introduced as a business coach, I'm introduced as a board member, which instantly builds trust, right?
Absolutely.
So I believe the networking for us isn't going to dozens of networking events a month. It's going to 2 or 3, 4
Meaningful
times a
ones.
month, like
Yeah.
building the relationships. And so that's how I built my business.
That makes sense. Yeah, absolutely. Excellent. Todd, thank you so much for your time today. I do really appreciate it and appreciate you taking some time to join me. This has been great to hear your story and really paint a picture for our brokers what a Focal Point franchisee does, how you acquire new clients, and how long you're with those clients is really clear after this conversation, and really understanding those key traits to look for so that we're sending you the best people to make your network even stronger, your network of franchisees. So thank you so much. I do appreciate the time very much.
I really appreciate being asked, and thank you for bringing me onto the show, Heath. I appreciate it. So
Yeah, pleasure was all mine. All right.
yeah, great meeting you.
Yeah, great to meet you as well. Thanks, Todd.
That's a wrap on this episode of Beyond the Brand, brought to you by Business Alliance Incorporated. If you enjoyed today's conversation, be sure to subscribe and stay connected for more insights on franchising success. Until next time.